Hey everybody, welcome to this new course on how to walk the blue line like Cale Makar. And we're going to go through a really new phase at Train 2.0 where we're going to get into some defensive skating patterns. And this is not something that we've done a lot, mostly because I was a defenseman and this didn't fascinate me as much until I saw Makar, because he's got a very fascinating way of moving. Every D-man used to kind of move somewhat similar at the blue line, and I never saw a player take in and use these downhill mechanics in such a unique way. So we're going to unpack how Makar uses these mechanics, in what context, and then how he uses them and layer them together to create a really unique movement style and to create a lot of options for himself. So this week we're going to talk about the granddaddy or the grandmother of all of the movements, which is the 10 and 2, that he really bases a lot of his movement patterns off of. Then we're going to talk about the reverse 10 and 2, which is something that we've not talked about at Train 2.0, and I don't think gets talked about very much at all, but is actually the secret to the deception. And then we're going to talk about the forward and backwards corkscrew and the forward and backward stutter, because we talk a lot about the forwards corkscrews and the forward stutters, but we don't talk about doing it backwards and what that allows Makar to do offensively. In week 5, we're going to talk about connecting forwards to backwards. So how he uses the 10 and 2 and the reverse 10 and 2 to connect forwards to backwards. And then in the last week, we'll talk about how he uses these patterns to fake out defenders and get shots through where you don't think that there's a shot. So without further ado, we'll jump into week 1 or part 1, where we'll talk all about the 10 and 2 and how Makar uses it. Now, I wanted to also add a clip in because here's Makar using the 10 and 2, and we see him using this all the time on the blue line. But there's another well-known player out there who uses the 10 and 2 just in a different context. And so we've got down below, you can see Crosby using the 10 and 2 as well. And he just uses it in a different context, lower and closer to the net. And the one thing that these two players have in common is that not only can they do the 10 and 2 once, most players can nowadays, not everyone can, but they can literally do it in all their movements. So you got to ask yourself the question, could you literally just skate around on the ice fully in a 10 and 2 the whole time? Based on what you see with Crosby and Makar, these two players can do that. They can just skate around and probably spend their entire time on the ice in a 10 and 2. And you really can. You can really actually move yourself left and right and gain speed and slow down all inside of a 10 and 2. So this goes back to the fundamental of the 10 and 2. And I'm going to show this to you in another couple of clips, and then I'll show you this week's drills. So here's Makar using this 10 and 2, again, at the blue line, oddly, kind of actually turning to the right or to the left, using a 10 and 2 to move laterally across a defender, which is not something you typically see. You would see Crosby using the 10 and 2 more to escape defenders, but not actually to have a deke. Now, this is where the context is different, because a defenseman usually has 10, 15 feet of space to work with, whereas a forward who's in tighter might only have 5 or 3 feet. So puck protection is a bit more important, whereas your angle at the blue line is more important for a defenseman because you got a bit more room to work with. So we see another 10 and 2 right there. Now here's a 10 and 2 the other way, kind of like what I was talking about, where you can use it to escape a defender and pick up speed. And so you can see Makar using the 10 and 2 as almost like a stride to pick up speed while keeping himself facing towards the play so he can make a play. So you can see the different context in which Makar is using a 10 and 2. So back to the first one here, you can see he's using it for a fake. And again, he's moving across the defender, so you can actually see him moving across the defender this way. Whereas you can see with Crosby, Crosby's trying to get away from defenders as he's doing it. And then you see that getting away pattern here, where the defender's here and Makar's trying to get away. But then if you go back to this one, you can see Makar using a 10 and 2 again to cut across a defender, which is actually kind of unique. It's not something that we've seen before a ton in the NHL. But the point being is that he can live in a 10 and 2. In order for us to progress from week 1 into weeks 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and to have that same, style and ability to walk the blue line like Makar, you can't go past week 1 until you can live in the 10 and 2. And here's the drill to do that. It's the 10 and 2 infinity. So 10 and 2 infinity, any infinity is just a infinity pattern or a figure 8, and the 10 and 2 infinity has you connecting the 10 and 2 to another 10 and 2. So you can see I have my left foot leading here and then my right foot leading here. But as you go, you'll start to learn to relax and ride your edges more, just like what you see with Makar here. So you'll want to spend a ton of time getting super comfortable in the 10 and 2, the next couple of weeks. But once you can do that, then we can progress to week 2, which is the reverse 10 and 2. And that's coming up next week. in how to walk the blue line like Makar. And so go live in the 10 and 2, do those 10 and 2 infinity flows, post that in the Facebook group, get some feedback on your clips, video yourself, and we'll see you next week for the reverse 10 and 2. Thanks for watching.